Okay. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, sir.
So the idea of this meeting is present my patch, the FlexGroup patch to you. This is a totally specific NetApp feature. So firstly, I want to cover those points. And firstly, I need to show what is this FlexGroup technology is, because it's not obvious for everyone. That's not part of the NetApp team. So firstly, I will introduce what FlexGroup technology is. It's basically it's a huge volume. So it's the same as the normal flex volume that we have. We are currently working on, but there's some difference because it's scale out. So it's like it's made by a set of members, right? So instead of just being one single volume, it's a group of volume. So it can be a huge volume until 20 petabytes. So it's a huge volume for things like machine learning, like big data, and so on, in a single namespace. So we can see that it's a group of volumes, and it's transparent for the user. The user just see as a single volume that mounts and write data, but it's a lot of data. It can have a lot of data, and it's managed the same way as we manage FlexVol. So it's the same way we create volumes, we delete volumes, we assign policies, we and rules, and we assign QoS policy, and we can do the same. We manage the same way as we manage FlexVol. The only difference is that, as I said, it's a huge volume, so we can grow this for until 20 petabytes. So, and another important difference, it's built over the entire cluster. It can be built over the entire cluster. So FlexVol normally resides in a single aggregate in the Untitled storage, but FlexGroup we reside in the entire cluster. So the idea of this is using the entire cluster, and the ONTAP, the storage, you load balance this. You distribute the files and workloads to the best nodes. So you are building a volume that resides in the entire cluster that can scale out, and you manage the same as you manage the normal volumes. So this is the idea of this FlexGroup technology. And for now, what we want to do is dispatch is add this functionality, add this type of volume to the Manila, to the NetApp driver. So we want to have a way for provision volumes that's our FlexGroup volumes instead of FlexVol. So from the FlexGroup with Manila NetApp driver, what do we have? We choose the approach for reporting this as a new type of pool. So this is a new type of pool. So we have we report pool to the scheduler, and we report a pool that is a FlexGroup. So if the scheduler choose this pool, it means that this volume will provision as a FlexGroup, right? So this is the important thing, how we implemented this in Manila, how we fit this functionality in Manila. So we have now two types of pools: a FlexVol pools, which is basically aggregates. We report as each aggregate as a pool, and FlexGroup pools, which is a set of aggregates. So it's a group of aggregates, and when this pool is selected by the scheduler, we will create the volume over those aggregates, right? You can of course, you can use this as the entire cluster. You can use a single pool as the entire cluster, and if the scheduler select this based on in its filters, it will create a volume that's a FlexGroup and operates in the entire cluster, and it can be, of course, a huge volume, like a lot of data. So now we are reporting a new type. So because we have two types of pool, I need to report a new type capability. It's a custom NetApp capability called NetApp FlexGroup. This is an important change as well, because it will inform to the administrator which kind of pool is the pool. So if it's a FlexGroup or not. So it's a true or false. If it's true, it means that that pool is it's a flex group. It's false. It means that's the normal flex vol as before. So we are adding this capability, and we can use, of course, this capability for the scheduler to like filter pools in your using your type, adding this or as specs this type, so you can filter flex group or flex vol, depends on your scenario, what you want to do. So you have this flexibility. So so now in how the administrators configure this new pool. Right? So administrators can configure in two ways. There are two ways. We are providing two ways for the administrator to configure this pool. The simplest way, it's just go in the backend and add this conf called NetApp enable flex group, which is the false to keep compatible with the previous driver. And but if you change this to true, add this to your stanza as true, it will start reporting one pool that represents the entire cluster. And if the scheduler selects this, it will send a request to the storage, and the ONTAP will select in which aggregates the volume will be created. And it uses like its heuristic and to choose the best one. And of course, the ONTAP knows better than us what is the best aggregate to create the volume, right? And this is the simplest way. In normal, it's the recommended way. You just go and add this flag, and you can start creating flex group volumes. It's huge volumes, the same as before. Create volume, create your type, and then take snapshots and do whatever you can do with Manila, like access allow, adding access rules, and like just adding this and in selecting the correct pool. And the second way, it's more custom way. You can customize your pools. You can say, okay, I enable my pools, but I don't want to operate in the entire cluster. I want to select in which aggregates forms pool. So I have this new option called NetApp Flex Group Pool, and you name your pool, like it's your preferred name, and you pass a list of aggregates. So like in this example, I have one single pool called my pool, which operates in two aggregates, aggregate 1 and aggregate 2. It means if the scheduler selects this my pool, the volume will be created over those two aggregates. So if it has like 100 giga, 400 will be here and 400 will be here. And you can actually use the different nodes, like balance your workloads in different nodes. It's up to you. Like you can configure in which aggregates will form pools, but you can leave this to the ONTAP. It's preferred way. So it's up to the administrator. Administrator can have two options of configuring the flex group pools. So finally, the administrator can work with flex vol and flex group in the same backend. We have a new configuration in the Manila conf called NetApp Flex Group Pool only. Its default is false, but if you can change to true. Like you can change this if you want to work in the same backend with flex vol and flex group, or you just want to work with flex vol, or just want to work with flex group. If you just want to work as with flex vol as before, you just don't configure this flag. You keep working as before with normal flex vol. But if you configure this, you can keep working with flex vol and flex group using this configuration. So yeah, summarizing, so we have a new pool that's a flex group. It operates in a set of aggregates instead of just one aggregate. It's a scale, it can scale out. And we have a new type called NetApp Flex Group, reported by the pool. In each pool has this type that can use this capability that can use by typing to filter. And you have two types of configuration, leaving to the ONTAP or customizing your aggregates that forms pool, that create volumes. And it requires ONTAP 9.8. So it's at least in 9.8 to start work with this. So this feature has this restriction because Flex Group was it has been improved a long time, but the best option is 9.8. So we can push our our customer to the latest version. In this version, there are some features that we want to work on with FlexGroup. So yeah, that's all about FlexGroup, how it works and how it fits in the Manila, how we implemented this. So going further, anyone has any question? No. Nope. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess a small this thing. I did miss some of the stuff, so you may have already answered this. So sorry about that. The enabling the NetApp Flex Group only, Flex Group pool only, and setting it to true. What happens to existing shares?
If you have it, if you're set this as a true, if you're setting this in the same backends, you're stopping reporting pools. Of course, so if you don't have more that pool, you cannot operate more that shares, right? The shares is still there.
Right.
You're stopping creating volumes there, and the pool doesn't exist anymore. It's not.
You only see the Flex Group pools there for that backend.
Yeah.
So you can still delete or do other things with the old Flex walls.
Yeah.
You can't, right? Like technically, you've stopped reporting those pools, which means that, I mean, unless the backend is well, we still go ahead and send the RPC request to the backend and not the pool, and the driver can try to parse the pool and realize, okay, it's not a pool that I know, not right now at least, because they've turned this pool off. Right? Are you getting my drift? I'm trying to say, like I have existing shares, but I decide, okay, all my new shares, I just want them to be flex groups only. I don't want any flex walls, new flex walls to be created. But I want to continue to operate on these existing shares, like take snapshots, extend them, delete them, etc. I mean, when we send those RPC requests, I mean, we're probably not going to validate the host all the time, but we are going to validate the host for, let's say, share extension. We won't validate the host for snapshotting. We won't validate the host for deleting. So your driver might still end up getting the request and might decide, what to do with it. But then for anything that needs to go through the scheduler, let's say create share from snapshot, you're going to have to fail. You're going to fail that operation at the scheduling phase itself because the pools have disappeared.
Yeah.
This is a problem that we already have today, right?
Yeah, I would say exactly that. It's not a new problem. So now we are publishing some pools. Like before we starting working with this, we are publishing pools that are aggregates. And you in the configuration, you saying each aggregates is a pool. If you go there and like you have aggregate 1 and 2, and you delete the aggregate 2 in this list, so you're stopping publishing this pool, and the volumes is there like without any.
The same problem.
Yeah, the same problem. So it's a wrong configuration. I'd say it's a misunderstanding of how should be done with this flag. If you want to work with Flex One Flex Group, and you just want to work with Flex Group, and you have your previous Flex Vol backend working there, you should create a new stanza for this. I just want to create Flex Group. I don't want to work with Flex Vol. So you need a new stanza for this, a new backend for this to work only with Flex Group.
That makes sense. So maybe if you have this option turned on, and you know that there are shares, is there a way for the driver to either, I actually don't know if it should fail setup. I feel like it should go ahead and ignore this option and log a warning or something, because I mean, for all you know, I mean, it is something that the administrators can shoot themselves in the foot for. But if the driver continues to operate like normal, and then they start seeing issues when they're doing management operations, that feels wrong too.
I got your point.
Yeah.
So
something that just should take note, and also both for flex groups and flex walls, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're trying to make any pool changes after the fact that you've already created some volumes, I mean, of course, there's nothing preventing you today. You can go ahead and adjust. I think you guys have a parameter called NetApp pool name search pattern. And if that pattern is changed, we will stop picking up the pools that we're previously reporting. And it's the same thing. The same thing would happen, what we're describing.
So we can work on this, as Douglas said. We could work with FlexVol only as well. So we can check that the pools for the aggregates, the pools that we are collecting match the shares that we have. So if we have a share or a new pool and the aggregate's not in that pattern, so we should like probably publish in the pool. I don't know. It's a bit complicated, this scenario. Yeah. But we are not dealing with this right now, even with FlexVol, but we can work on this.
Yeah, I mean, because you're introducing this new option, I would say let's make sure that this works as expected. I know there is that theoretical case where somebody could go yank out a pool that was already there. But I mean, maybe that should be considered as a separate bug and especially on that pool name search pattern update sort of a thing. But turning this option on an upgrade will break people right now, right? So either, yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know, and I think this is something that's worth brainstorming. What would you do should you upgrade, and then you have this option set to true, and you have existing volumes? What should you do?
If you upgrade to this version, yeah, it keep working as before because you're not configuring FlexGroup. So your backend will keep working as before because this feature just starting working. This option only works if this option is enabled. Otherwise, this option is useless. There is no impact.
Yeah, so the upgrade impact is only if the administrator has gone ahead and made some changes, and at that point they're going to do this based on, okay, so I want the next set of my volumes to only be FlexGroups, and if they do this, knowing that there are FlexVols right now, then they still are going to experience the failures. So I'm sort of asking you if we can prevent that that mode of failure.
I got your point. That's important. Yeah, I agree with you. We can work in a way to avoid stopping publishing pools.
In the same way that you're probably failing for when the operator enable FlexGroup and the on-tap version doesn't match. You're probably failing at the setup.
Yeah.
Kind of same way. Just there's a validation in the setup.
Yeah. We can add this node.
Makes sense.
And we can
awesome. Yep, you should continue.
Yeah. So continuing. So yeah. Now we have the CI part. So firstly, we need to prove that it's keep working as before. So it's not breaking anything, this change. So our CI running with normal FlexVol here. This is our CI voting. Our CI success in our two jobs, Manila C.SS in OSS. So it's not adding any bug for the code. And we also need to test this with FlexGroup. So as we know, FlexGroup is a type of volume. So we could run all those two jobs, but instead of creating FlexVol, we would create FlexGroup. So if you are creating FlexGroup, we can create volumes, delete volumes, and working all those tests. But instead of creating FlexVol, creating FlexGroup. I did this in my local, I created an experimental job in our CI, and here I post the results. So it passed. We configure our CI to run with those two jobs, but FlexGroup, no SS, and C dot FlexGroup SS. Both are voting success. And we can see here the difference. It's easily to see that these are operating over FlexGroup. So if you see the Manila scheduler, for instance, scheduler, you can see the NetApp FlexGroup. Yeah, all of them are true. So all pool that I am publishing to run this this test are FlexGroup. So they are true for FlexGroup. So the tests run using FlexGroup. We can see here that all tests passed. So we have the same tests passing the Tempest with FlexGroup and FlexBall. Later we can change that. We can make this job called downstream experimental in the same as to upstream. So we can run NetApp CI and we will trigger 4 jobs, 2 for FlexVol and 2 for FlexGroup, right? Currently, we are just in our internal CI. This pipeline. So yeah, so we need to. This proves that the FlexGroup works with all operation that we have implemented for it, and we also add 2 chains for the Tempest in order to run this FlexGroup test. I created 2 new Tempest chains. This one, fixed creating share without using share size. So we have in the Tempest the configuration called share size that you can say which is the size that the volumes during the test. What is the size of the volume that you want to use? And I need this configuration because FlexGroup has a limitation. There's a minimum size. The FlexGroup is created for huge things, right? So we cannot work with FlexGroup with 1 giga, 2 giga, right? There's a minimum, which is 400 giga per aggregate. So I want to use this configuration to set this value for 400. But there are some bugs on the code. Some tests failed because they're not creating like this here. We can see here, they are using like 1 and 2 instead of using the configuration. So I just update this because those tests are failing. Share groups are failing. And there are more one from replication. Yeah, replication that's using share size like hard coded here too, but it should be they follow the configuration. And the second one is this here theme provision. We don't have enough space in our storage in our lab that we run our CI to run with FlexGroup because it needs like minimum 400. So it depends on some tests. It requires much more data than we have in our storage. So the idea was provide a new configuration for the Tempest called I call it this as what is the name? It's run, yeah, this share theme provision. So it's false by default, but if you change this to true, it will start create all volume as theme provision. So we can fake our size of our storage. So I did this change. I separated in 2 changes because this cannot be backported because it's a new configuration. But the other one could be backported because it's a fix in the Tempest. Yeah. So the CI is passing with FlexVol and FlexGroup, and it seems all good for the CI part, for the Tempest part.
I have a question about that thin provisioning stuff. So I mean, there is no need to backport anything, right? Like a Tempest plugin is supposed to work with older versions of Tempest. So technically, whatever changes you're going to propose to Manila Tempest plugin, it has to be running against all previous versions of Manila that we care about at least. So if you've noticed on your patch itself, we'll be running the same, branch against older versions of Manila. Like I think we're running Usuri, Victoria, and Wallaby tests. So there's nothing to backport there. So these are good improvements. Yeah.
Okay, could you have a single patch, right?
Yeah. There's nothing to backport in Manila Tempest plugin at least. So that because there are no branches. The only problem is distributions like Red Hat, for instance, we kind of freeze the Tempest plugin that we bring in per branch, but we have a way to even update those. And we do from time to time. We just take whatever we publish in the upstream and go update an older release to that latest tag. So there is a way to update tests even in older versions as it comes to the distributions like Red Hat. But that's not something that we have to bother about. As long as it works upstream when it's testing 3 releases like we're doing, we're good. There's nothing more to backport.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
And I did have a question about the thin provisioning stuff. Do you think? Well, I don't know. I think that just features creep or something over here. Is that it's one of those options that is going to be generic, right? The option that you've added.
This option here, share thin provision.
Yeah, and the way it works is you're going to set this into every extra spec.
Yeah, for all new extra
true.
I'm adding. Yeah, that's true. Same as we do with driver handle share server. That's it's obligate. It's we need to have this. It's a must extra spec. I add this in the same code because I know this part of the code. Every time we create an extra spec, we need to use this. So I added this here in this part of the code,
right?
Based on this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. And since this kind of affects all the provisioning, I think what you're doing is fine. The only thing is, I guess we call these capabilities. So the option name should probably have capability on in front of it. And I'm not sure. Are we just calling it thin provisioned in the code, or is this called thin provisioning, or is it called thin provisioning support? Maybe it's just called thin provisioning.
Yeah, I think it changes, right? If I remember, I read the documentation. There are 2 options: thin provision, or I don't remember the other name.
Thick provisioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, that's fine. You're doing the right thing. Cool. So when flex walls or flex groups are enabled, you're still going to report capabilities as thin provisioned and thick provisioned, right? On the flex group pools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And another question is, sorry, go ahead. You were saying.
I'm just using this like to overcome a problem that we have, that we don't have enough space for running the CI, with FlexGroup, because FlexGroup require a lot of space, like at least 400 per share, at least. So yeah, so this is a way that we can overcome this issue.
Yeah, totally. And it makes sense even for as I was thinking, like when we run tests. I mean, it won't make sense for a driver like FFS, for instance, that can only do thin provision things and can't do space guarantees. But anything else where I mean, this kind of makes a generic sense to have. So thanks for adding that. I did have a question about the flex group min size. So what happens in Manila today if you try to create a share of a smaller size than the minimum size that you have?
It will, when you call the storage will report an error, and we will put this volume to the error state, saying, okay,
I see.
We could add this like this feature in the scheduler, like having a minimum, but I think it's very NetApp specific, like adding a scheduler filter for just enabling I thought about this. We can, like, the backend reports what is the minimum size it wants. Each pool reports, I want just volume at least, but we have the filter function for that, right? So we can use filter function for this.
Absolutely. And I was going to suggest the same thing. I'm going to probably add a note in your thing, but I'll drop it inside your Etherpad. So where do I put this?
Feel free.
Add a default filter function or append to whatever the administrator is setting, right? Here's an example which the Unity driver implemented. Their minimum size is 3 gigabytes. So the way it works would be you report that as the minimum size. The scheduler is just going to make sure nothing smaller than that is ever going to land on your backend. That way they have a generic error handling that's already happening, and the driver doesn't need to worry about that.
I got it. Yeah,
and the other thing is, of course, if you have, let's say, FlexGroups and the backend that's just doing flex walls in so at least two NetApp backends, at least you know that the request is never going to go to the FlexGroup one, because the scheduler has already made a choice based on that.
Yeah, we have this capability, so you can set this, and because for the user perspective, sometimes the idea of FlexGroup is be the same as FlexWall, so the user doesn't need to know the difference between them, right? So for the user, it just want to create a volume and mount the volume and write data. It doesn't want to know if it's a FlexGroup or FlexWall and so on, right? So we could use both as the same. We don't need to we don't need to force the user to say if he wants or not FlexGroup. He just wants to provision a volume, right? Like a share.
Absolutely. And with that logic, you're basically saying if you send something, if you want a volume that's, let's say, 30 gigabytes, it's not going to be a flex group. It's just going to be a flex wall. And the flex group pools are not going to be considered because they're reporting it this stuff to the driver filter, to the scheduler.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Okay. I
did want to check if, is there anything that you encountered where there is any feature parity? You're saying it's all working, and that's probably you've probably checked group snapshots and replication and migration and all of that stuff.
No, we support some operations this first release, and the idea is in the next release we could work to improve some operations. We are just we are delivering the best effort, which is the most important functions in our perspective, which is create volume, deleting volume, giving access, take a snapshot, revert from a snapshot, revert to a snapshot, create from a snapshot, create a share from a snapshot, and replication. Those operations we are providing this first release. For the next release, we work on the others. We will of course, depends on our roadmap, but we can work in the next release in other features like migration and other things like migration and what do we need more. I think migration and replication we have. Migration, yeah, we need migration in share group consistency.
I see. Okay. So what happens today if these operations are performed on a flex group?
Okay, if you have an operation like migration volume, of course we would in the check part we would deny it, as we say. There's some things that we must have to migrate a volume, like it must be in the same backend and other things. One of this restriction will be if the volume is a flex group. If it's of a flex group, we will deny. We will throw an error for this, saying that we not support yet migrating flex group volumes. Yeah, and if you have a share server, like migration of share server, if the share server has a flex group, you cannot migrate the entire share server yet in this first release. So if your SVM, your share server, if your share server has flex group volumes inside it, we will not accept the migration. In the check part, you say, okay, we cannot move this right now. This is the scenario we have. So yeah, of course, SVM, like in the SVM level, in the share server level, in the share server level, you can have flex volume, flex group inside it. right? So this is a problem in the current implementation, but yeah, we probably work on this in the next release to provide a better
Yeah,
experience.
makes sense.
Yeah,
No,
but this
totally.
is
And those are optional features. So you can, I mean, if you have a way to prevent them, I mean, there not all of them have capabilities, right? So you should just be able to handle them at runtime correctly. That way, you at least give them a early warning in advance, saying, or rather, a warning at the time when they're doing it. And of course, you'd hope to convey that in the documentation or something, saying it's not going to work. If you're creating a flex group, and so at least administrators know migration is not an option when they have flex groups.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, any other questions about this CI? I need to move forward because I still need live demo and pass through the code.
Go ahead.
I have the idea of showing very quickly how we configure it and how it works. It's straightforward. So I have here an environment. So I have it here. It's I already have applied my flex group patch in this environment, but I just have here a normal deployment, which we are using FlexVol. So we have two pools, aggregate 0 and aggregate 1, and that's all. So the idea is I will change this backend for starting working with flex group. So we can go there and so I can go here and change this, adding NetApp, enable flex group. It will make the starting publishing flex group pool, and I want to keep working FlexVol. So I use NetApp flex group pool only as false. So doing this, I will start either and restarting, of course, the service. Flex group. Doing this, I will restart my service, and let's see if everything works fine. And the backend will start in publishing 3 pools, right? Yeah, it's finished. It's already up. Yeah. So if I list my pools now, I have a new pool, which is Flex Group Auto. This is a name that I named this as Flex Group Auto because it's auto provision. The on tap we will select in which aggregates the Flex Group will reside, right? So we have a new pool, this, and if I detail the pool, better if I do this, we can see that the NetApp Flex Group capability here. NetApp Flex Group is false for these pools, the older pools, which are flexible pools. So NetApp Flex Group here, NetApp Flex Group as false, and this new pool is NetApp Flex Group here, true. So now we are reporting which type the pool is for this scheduler, and we can use this for selecting if it's a flex group or not, or we can just leave to the scheduler to select the best one. We don't have yet the function, the filter function that you mentioned. We can add this in the patch. So I can, like Manila type, I have a type here called NetApp. It's a bit slow, my environment. I don't know why. It's key, and I can set this new NetApp flex group true. So this way, my type will force the volume to be a flex group.
I think slow is good right now because I think we're getting what you're saying with some delay.
Ah, sorry.
Cool.
Okay.
No,
sorry.
not your fault. I think it's Zoom.
Yeah. So now I can create a volume. Are you this volume to be 800? It's a minimum size for this actually. So the type and the network. So yeah, you can create the volume. the volume takes a bit more. It's a bit longer than a normal volume. Yeah, it takes not more than 30 seconds. Something like that. Just waiting to be available, my volume. It's creating. Yeah, successfully. Yeah, it's available. Yeah, so I have the volume here. It's a flex group. For the user perspective, doesn't matter if it's a flex group or not. It's a volume, right? And just want to create this volume, and yeah, you can mount the you can like access, allow this one IP, my IP here. I can give access for this, and I can mount and write data. Mount. Yeah, it will be mounted, and you can see here it's mounted in my environment. I can touch it. Yeah, that's all. So I will mount this, and I can delete the volume as normal volume, as a normal share in the Manila. Yeah, it will be deleted, right? So that's how it works. This is a volume, so we can take snapshot. We can like do whatever we want to this volume. But yeah, that's the main change. So I have showed. Does anyone have any question about this?
Super cool. The question I had would be if I recall correctly, FlexGroups had only one NFS version supported, but this was a while ago. Do they now have any more restrictions like that? That which NFS client version could you be using? And export version.
Which NFS? Sorry, I didn't get it.
NFS version. Does it support NFS 3, 4, and 4.1?
I'm not totally sure. I think it supports all NFS version. Now
Okay.
We normally set up this as 4.1, but I think it supports 3. No, I'm totally sure it supports 3 and 4 because there is an issue regarding these two versions, but it supports both. Awesome. And also in my demonstration here, I create a NFS, but we can create a CIFS. It works for both, not only NFS. You can have NFS and CIFS. Of course, GHS has true and false because it's just the share server.
Awesome. Yeah, it's cool. That's kind of what I was thinking. I don't know. It feels like an entire lifetime ago that FlexGroups was a thing at NetApp, but it feels like over the releases they've actually added all this stuff to kind of give this parity, and you've done a great job trying to line it up with FlexWalls.
That's one of the reasons we are adding this minimal support like 9.8. Actually, FlexGroup is supported since 9.1. It's a long time, but it's the best. It's more like stable in the 9.8. It's kind of like we have a better, more features, and yeah, it's better to work with FlexGroup in 9.8. So we are starting to work with 9.8. We are not accepting this in the driver with lower version. So yeah, so let's go to the code, the last part. And so you have here, I have just 3 main parts of the code: FlexGroup configuration, FlexGroup shard deployment, and other fixed details. There are a lot of fixed details that I need to handle. But yeah, going to the configuration, I will show here how it configures. I have single here. So when it starts the driver now, it's called this function, initialize FlexGroup pools. So this function in each one, so it's libmult and libbase, there are two types of two ways of deploying Manila driver for this NetApp. So DHA is true and false. Both are calling the NetApp FlexGroup pools, which is here. This is in the startup phase, so in starting the driver, and this pool, this function will like pass through the column, retrieve the options, see if see if the option is set, and see if this like if it's set correctly, right? So if the version is correctly, 9.8 version, and if it's the flex group pools is passive, it means that the user is customizing your pools, is not leaving to the ONTAP to auto provision the volume. You have a parse phase which needs to parse the dictionary, because it's a dictionary where you pass the name of the pool and the list of aggregates, name of the pool and the list, and then to parse to see if this, I have here in the utils, this is important function. So this function here, parse flex group pool config, it will pass through this list of configuration and see if it's if the pool name is not part of an aggregate name, if the aggregate is not repeated, if the aggregate is in the aggregate list of the cluster. So because it's you write the aggregate 1 and 2, and we need to see if it's not repeated, and we need to see if it's not in the it's in fact is in the a cluster and other things like that. So here we are like parsing this and see if we can start the driver, if it's like correct this configuration. This is how we deploy, and then we after we have this, we pass to the here. We create this is flex group auto and self flex group pools, which is a dictionary where we place the name of the pool and the list of aggregates that this pool has. In this case here, it's auto provision, so we have just a single pool. It's called this name, which is as you saw, it's flex group auto, the name, and we have the entire cluster as the aggregates, that's parts of this pool. And this order, we can have more than one. It depends on the administrator customization, right? But we have the same. We have this dictionary called flex group pools, and this is very important because here in this dictionary we will see if it's a pool and if it's a flex vol or flex group, and if it's set or not a flex group in this driver, or So this dictionary, it's very important. We use this through all code. So what else I need to show? Here we have some like utils function for the flex group, like get flex group pool name. So I pass aggregate list, and I want to pass through I pass through the flex group pools dictionary and I get the correct aggregate list which match this, and send back to the user the pool name of this aggregate list based on this dictionary that I built during the driver initialization. And it's flex group pool, so I pass a pool name and see if this pool name is inside the dictionary and other things like that. Is flex group share? This is an important function because I want to know if this share is a flex group or not. So I pass a share, pass a client, then I call in don't tap storage, and don't tap storage will answer us if this a flex group or a flex vol. Yeah, and have this is flex vol pool configured. You see if it's a configured or not. So if I call this function, it will answer us if there is any flex group pool in this driver running. So yeah, this is about deployment, configuring a flex group. So this is the part of the code that deals with the configuration of those options. This is here the option, NetApp enable flex group, NetApp flex group pool that you can use to customize your pool, and NetApp flex group pool only that you can use to enable or not flex vol and flex group together to work together. Yeah. So that's all about the flex group configuration I use. And then another important thing is the deployment. Remember, the deploy of flex group and flex vol, they are different because the flex vol operates in a single aggregate, but in the flex group world, it operates in a set of aggregates, right? So we have here in the lib base, here, this is important, I think, in the create share, create share, create flex group share. So this is called here. So here is the function that's creating a share. So now I'm seeing if the pool name that the scheduler selects is a flex group, is flex group pool, and I pass the pool. And if it is a flex group, I call this function, get flex group aggregate list. So I will get the aggregate list for this pool, and they'll create flex group share for this aggregate list. Right? So I call this, and else it's the same as before. So it just here's provision of normal flex vol. And this function has two. Here we have two retry. This function to retry. We had to the provision flex group. Firstly, we need to start provision. Flex group provision is a synchronous call. It's not like flex vol that you just say create volume and the storage answers I create or not the volume. Here we create the volume and we need to wait for the storage to finish this. So we need to start and look at the job ID. The same as Carlos showed yesterday about the migration. So we have a job running on the storage and we need to start and look at this until it gets in the complete state. So firstly, I have waited to start create flex group. This is a required thing because when you're provision a flex group, you can only provision a flex group if there is no other volume being provisioned in the aggregates that you choose for the flex group. So if for instance another flex group is being provisioned in aggregate, the flex group, other flex group cannot be provisioned at the same time. So and you get error for this. So instead of just throwing error, I add here a retry. So it will be for a long time trying to create the volume, start and create the volume until like there's a configuration for this. So you can see like 5 minutes. So I will try 5 minutes to create a volume, start to create a volume, sorry. So if it's starting create, it means that it gets the aggregate can start creating a volume in that aggregate. So it's like it's a busy state of the aggregate. So I wait for 5 minutes trying to start creating the volume. If I can't get this start, I return here, and then I start. There's another operation here running several times, like in a loop, waiting for the job status to be success in the success state. If it gets in the failure, I report an error, I throw an error for this. Otherwise, I wait until it's finished the loop wait call. So yeah, so it's finished. It's the same as before, the same as FlexVol. So it's finished. It's provisional, and I answer with the it's finished, and then we can have the same as before, creating the Junction path and return to the core the provision location for this volume and so on. The main difference is the way that we provision. First, we need to retry until we get the aggregate, not busy anymore. And second, we need to waiting for the job status to be success, because it's a synchronous call. It's not synchronous. Yeah, that's an important thing about this code. So I have this code here doing those two things. And what else I have here? Yeah, now we can pass to the pools. So we are reporting new pools and to the code, going to the code for the pools part. We have just more 2 minutes. So the pools, the core is always calling this function here, get pools, which will send to the scheduler which pools the driver has, right? So now we change this a bit. This is an important part of this change because we are changing how we are reporting the pools. So here we have two parts, one for FlexVol, one for FlexGroup. For FlexVol, it works as before. It iterates over the aggregate pools. So we have aggregate pools that the administrator configured, which aggregates will be used to create FlexVol volume, the same as before. And here we iterate over this dictionary that I built during the initialization, FlexGroup pools. And this, we have the pool name and the aggregate list. And we add to the pool, this pool and the aggregate list, right? And the important thing in this point, we need to build the space that this pool has. This here is the same. Get pools is the same for FlexGroup and FlexVol. So I create a new function for this, so you can use for both FlexGroup and FlexVol because they are the same pool name, filter function, goodness function. All those capabilities and things are the same for both. So I can use the same function to avoid duplicate code. And get FlexVol pool space is the same as before. I just separate in different function because the get FlexGroup pool space is a bit different. Here I just get the space for the aggregate that storage reported and passed, and that's all. But here it's a bit different because I have a set of aggregate, right? And what is the space for this pool? If I have a set of aggregate, you can say, okay, it's the sum of those aggregate. Yeah, that's not correct. The correct is it's the least aggregate total size times the number of aggregates. So we get the least aggregate in the sense of the size. So which aggregate has less space? So this would say how much space I have to dispose. So if I have 3 aggregates, one with 1 tera, other with 1 tera, and the third one with like 400 giga. So the total space available for this pool is 1.5 tera, because it's the size of the least one, which is 400 times 3, which is the number of aggregates. Yeah, I've been doing this math here, basically calculating this. Yeah, this is important as well because we need to report how much available space we have to the pool, FlexGroup pool. It's a bit different the way that we do to the FlexVol. What else I have? Okay, so this is the most important chains that we have. Other chains I will pass through them are more related to. Sorry, I passed the time. It's 2 and 1. So if anyone needs to drop the call, feel free. I'm almost finishing. I'm just passing. I don't know if it's up to you guys.
No, continue. I think you're getting to the end. This is good. If folks have other meetings, feel free to drop off. But we should finish this up.
Yeah, I'm almost finishing here. Let's move. So passing now to the entire file, we have some things like get aggregate space. I changed this because now I have the aggregate space. As I said, it's a different way to get this space. We have some things like consistent snapshot support. I need to drop for FlexGroup. We don't support FlexGroup. We don't support consistent group snapshots. So yeah, we support groups. We can create a group with FlexGroup, but it will work as a normal group. Like taking snapshot means taking each one, and who will perform this is the core code, right? Not the drive code. So we are not support consistent snapshot. I don't know if we will support, because the idea of FlexGroup is close to the idea of groups. FlexGroup is a group of FlexVol. So I don't know if we will support this. I don't know if it makes sense. You're creating groups of FlexGroups. So get pools, I already explained this. So get FlexGroup space, get FlexGroup aggregate set. So this is just to return the aggregates, but as a set. So you go to this and you see you join all aggregates that you have in your FlexGroup pools and returns as a set instead of a list. Get pools. This is a function that just changes because you pass a share and you want to know what is the pool of this share, right? I changed this because now the share can be different from what we had to the FlexVol, because it can be a list or not. So if it's a list, if the aggregate is a list, so it's a FlexGroup, and it's not. It's normal. It's a normal as before. You just grab the host, the pool name. So if you have the pool name for the FlexVol, I know what is the name of the pool. It's the same as the pool name. But for FlexGroup, it's not. Like if you have the pool, you have the pool name and you have the aggregates. They are not the same. Another thing is the create share for snapshot. As I said, we are not supporting consistent snapshot. So now we can have a group of shares it's a normal, it's not consistent. So when you're calling take a snapshot, what the car will do, it will call this function, create share for snapshot, for each share. For FlexVol, it doesn't call this because we have the consistency. So it will call the consistency part. But now it's calling for this as when it's a flex group. And I think that I noted here is that is group snapshot. There's a problem in the car. I don't know if it's a problem, but this function, the car code when it's calling this is not passing the parent share. So here we are, before we are just checking if the pair is here, if the host go, it's equal to the share. But here we cannot do this because the parent is not passed when you are dealing with groups. So when you're dealing with groups, with flex group inside groups, in the share groups Manila, you're here, so we need to check if it's a group and go here. So I create as normal in the same host, the same as we do with normal when you're creating from snapshot in the same host. But as I said, we need to check it's a group or not before checking the parent, because the parent is not passing down when it's called by the group part. Take a snapshot of a group. Here we have some things that we need to do for create share for snapshot. We need to ensure, because we can create a share for snapshot in different pools, right? In different hosts. So I need to check if it's not creating a flex group in a FlexVol pool or FlexVol pool, FlexVol share in a flex group pool, right? So I need to check this. So if it's creating different, I will, of course, I will throw an error. And what else? Yeah, check regarding this. There's some fix here, like relationship type, because you're using Snap Mirror. In Snap Mirror for FlexVol, we use DP, and for Flex Group, it's on tap requirement. We need to use XDP type. So I need to do this kind of things here. All Snap Mirror, all Snap Mirror setup, I need to use different relationship type. So I have this kind of things. I had some comments here. Here's some fix that I need to do. Oh, what else? Yeah. Create flex group. I already explained this. How we deploy. This is some fix that we need to do. Yeah, when you are creating the share, which means we are creating the export location of this. Now I need to inform to this function if it's a flex group or not. I will show later why we do this, but we need to know if it's a flex group or not. The way that we know it's a flex group or not is basically get the pool and call this function is flex group pool. So we extract the pool from the host and pass through this function. This is the way that if you look at the code, you see a lot of this. All times you are checking if the pool is not or not, it's a flex group or not. I'm not calling the cluster for this because I can find out if it's a flex group or not. Just look at the pool. I don't need to go to the ONTAP and ask if it's a flex group or not. In most of the case, I can just find out this by look at the pool name. Get support is nothing, just something that we need to change because now we have the aggregate as a list, not only as a single aggregate. What else? The delete snapshot is a complicated part, yeah, because the delete snapshot is a synchronous call. If it's busy, it's a synchronous call. It's not asynchronous. So I need to add a wait here to wait until it gets deleted. It's not like the FlexVol. So yeah, there's some things like the same as before. I need to check. It's a flex group. Here is the replicate part, replication. If you're creating replication, I just need to check if you're not creating a replica in a flex group pool. Like you have a share, it's a FlexVol, and you're creating a replica in a flex group pool, or vice versa. You are creating a flex group in a FlexVol pool. So you need to ensure this as part of code. Deal with this. What else? It's long code. Not important yet. Some changes I did here. What else? Create a replica. Yeah, replication in Manila. We need to in Untap with FlexGroup. There's some restriction in 98 version. It just can have one single replica. While starting in 991, we can have more replicas for this, a single shard. So I'm just checking if you're using the correct. During you're creating your replica, I'm checking if you're using the version 98. I'm throwing an error. If you're just having one, if you're using 98 and you are creating the second replica, it can just have one single replica for each volume, FlexGroup volume. So I'm doing this here, checking this. It's the state fan out is how we call this, and just here I'm seeing if there's more than 2 replicas in throwing error. As I said, a replication type, I need to change this. Yeah, we need to add some not initialized because it takes some times where you're creating. There's delete replicate snapshot. So when you have a snapshot in a replication, the snapshot must be passed to all replicas, and the core calls a function to update this to check if it's the snapshot replica is already there, and we call this update. And we see if it's exception not found, we not raise an exception. But we sometimes, because FlexGroup takes a long time to set up the snap mirror, if you call this update, sometimes it's not yet set up not initialized yet the relationship. So we cannot, and it will raise an exception, but we should change this. If it's not initialized yet, the relationship, it means that it's not a wrong state. It's not, we cannot call this update yet. So I do the same as not found. So if it's not found, it's not initialized. I skip this. I don't raise the exception if it's not initialized yet and if not found. The same here. I do the same here to fix this bug. What else? Yeah, the initialization, as I already explained it. This is the longest code. Other things, I think, yeah, this is the longest. I just need to explain this and it's done. So when you are creating the export location, in the CIFS mode, I didn't change anything here, but here in the NFS mode, when you are creating export location, I'm passing it's a FlexGroup or not, because this function, this get volume junction path, it's a zap call function to Untap. It's not supported for FlexGroup, so I cannot call this to get the junction path for the volume. I need to get the volume and then extract the information, the junction path. But for FlexVar, I keep working as before, calling this function, get volume junction path. For CIFS, I didn't change anything. I just have it keep here because it's the same function. Okay. Oh, what else? I think, yeah, that's all I have to this. Data motion, sorry. I also need to show the data motion. For the data motion, which leads with things with replication, relationship type I need to change. As I said, relationship type is XDP for FlexGroup and DP for FlexVol. So I need to change this. I also changed this because the release is a single call, but for FlexGroup, I cannot just call the snap mirror release and it will work. I actually take some time. So instead of just releasing and say, okay, if it's returned success, it releases. For FlexGroup, if it returned success, it doesn't mean it releases. It means that it starts releasing. So I add here a function here waiting for snap mirror release vol. So I just waiting to check if the snap mirror relationship was released. So I have a retry here until it gets released, or it will, of course, it can finish it because it timeout, right? It gets a timeout. Yeah, for this, I think this is the most important change I have. Does anyone have any question regarding my changes, or want to see a specific thing, how I did a specific change, or how I deal with a specific modification? Yeah, it's a long There's a lot of things here, but that's all. The rest is more small things and unit tests. But we need to call attention for those points. Any question? I don't
I
think
have
so.
a
That's a bit,
question.
yep, go ahead.
I have a question about the CI. So do you guys plan to have a specific job in the future to test only flex groups? Something like that?
Yeah, we need to decide yet. We'll take a decision on this in the near future. But as you can see, flex group is entire type of volume, right? So it's like flex volume, flex group. They are type of volumes. So it seems that we need a specific job for testing both, right? Because the flex group touch the entire drive. It's not a single feature, right? It's not a single feature like replication or like take a snapshot or what else. It's a type of volume, so it touches the entire driver. So snapshot, take snapshot, and all functions, all operations. So I think we will deliver a specific job for this. The problem, the problem of this is that the execution of the CI for Flex Group is taking more than 4 hours. It's 4 hours to finish the execution.
Ouch.
Yeah. So, and we need to see how we can speed up this, probably increasing the concurrence in the Tempest, or I don't know, I was thinking split the Tempest. So we run, I don't know.
Any specific reason that it takes too long to create a flex group in the backend?
Because it's flex group is as the goal of flex group is huge volume. So there's that limitation I mentioned regarding the minimum size. So I have to create 400 giga. Even using thin provision, it takes time to deploy a flex group. The ONTAP takes time to deploy. The deployment, it's a synchronous call. The reason to be a synchronous call because it's not like call and it's done. It takes time. Yeah. So the flex group, that's the problem of flex group, because it's for a huge scenario you're using. So the deployment is huge and the CI you take longer than normal. Yeah, that's a problem.
Maybe you guys can consider a minimum set of tests and avoid similar tests that are running, executing, and maybe you get a small time execution. So
yeah, we can
an idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. That's a good idea, because some tests, they are the same as flex vol and flex group. The code exactly the same, and so we don't need to change like giving like providing access rules. The part of access rules, I haven't changed anything. It works the same time, at the same way. Sorry, same way. So we could skip those kind of things, and it can like filter parts of the code that they are the same, test that pass for the same part, so we can just leave for flex vol. In flex group, we just test like deployment, like create volume, delete volume, replication, that they are different, and some just sample, like a small sample of test. That's a good approach.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Any other question?
Yeah. So yeah, I see a lot of use of looping calls in here. And that's, I mean, I know that you're saying it's something that the backend cannot do, but at the same time, it's not really a synchronous call, right? It's you are making a call, let's say on line 1106 of where is this? Of libbase.py, and you're creating a flex group share. You're getting a job ID back from the from the backend.
Yeah.
And you're then waiting on that job for a while for that job to be completed. So it doesn't seem like it's a synchronous call, right? So you're making a call to the backend, you're getting a job ID, you just have to wait on that job ID. It's not the same, like, I mean, you could consider FlexVol creation to be synchronous, but I think this is perfectly asynchronous in the sense it's not done yet. Maybe in the past for flex walls, or rather not the past, but for flex walls, you don't have to worry about it being done. You know, it's just going to be done. It's just going to be created. But for this, why aren't you considering just doing what you do for asynchronous create share from Snapshot, where you keep the share in a pending state, and you allow Manila to poll you for the status, and then you basically just keep checking on the status if it's ready or not, and you let Manila know when it's ready.
I thought this. I have this in my mind before, but this kind of thing I need to change the core part, right? So this kind of thing. Sorry, you can say. If I got exactly what you said, if your idea is change the manager for doing this for like create from snapshot does how it does it, like it creates and then there's an update calls that calls the driver to see if it's done or not. That's your point, right?
Exactly. So, and I think, or I thought, I mean, we do that currently in the CephFS driver as well as in the NetApp driver, right? But I don't know if it's just for create from snapshot. I thought it was done generically for stuff. And Douglas, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to look up that part of the code.
I thought it's just for create share from snapshot.
Yeah,
I thought that's the reason I did this way.
I see.
But I'm not totally sure.
I remember for create from snapshot.
Actually, create from snapshot, it's just one call. But when you implement, I think Douglas and Carlos and NetApp team implement. I was not part of the team in that time. They implemented this create share from snapshot to create in different hosts. So for this, they starting doing from two calls, like update and create, and then update call that calls every time the driver to see if it's done or not.
Right. And so is it, I mean, it's there. I mean, there are reasons why I'm pointing this out. One is looping calls are every looping call that you do is a new set of green threads that are going to be created. One to keep track of the looping call, and the other to do the looping call itself. And we kind of use it all over the place. But you know, as the problem with any kind of threading goes, it's not really reliable and safe to keep. I mean, it's you're forking yourself. It's a new process. And if should something happen, like, you know, we lose track of threads all the time. And it's the sort of thing that I don't know, we should not be using all the time, and we should be doing sparingly. There is actually a new kind of looping call in Oslo service that we recently switched, or rather are still switching to, I think, in the core code. I have an open review for that. And that gives you a little more flexibility on starting and stopping a thread. But a looping call, for instance, is not one of those. So does it make sense to, I see this code change that you're talking about, the code that you're talking about, where we're not considering creating as a pending state in the share manager. But that it doesn't it make more sense to do that rather than this? Like, you know, you can expect the share driver to let you know that, yeah, I'm still creating, and you just go ahead and call. I mean, Manila will just go ahead and keep checking for the status.
I got your point. I prefer that this way. You said this is better than we have here. I didn't know about this green thread that you mentioned. This is a good information that enforce the idea of not doing this. But I need to change the core code, the core part, right?
Exactly.
If it's not done, yeah, I'm not totally sure.
Yep. And here's the change that's trying to use a different kind of looping call. Again, there are issues with this as well. I mean, kind of the reason why I was voting +1 and not +2 yet, because there are, I mean, so this thread group kind of wraps around this whole looping call stuff and provides you an interface to start and stop, like basically abandon threads. cut them off, kill them. But at the same time, this I mean, this stuff is introducing some new logging messages. It says that the next set of threads already started by the time the previous ones finished executing. So it doesn't give you some sort of isolation, let's say. So the point saying, all right, so I'm waiting for this job to be completed. And I'm waiting with some sort of an exponential backoff or something. And while I'm doing that, the next thread got kicked off because the backend didn't respond in time. That's the sort of problem that I'm seeing in this implementation from Xena. So I'm generally nervous about adding any more stuff, only because, hey, you're already each driver process is already a thread, and that is going to kick off a next set of threads to do some async operations. If we can consolidate those, because that's what the share manager is already doing. It is kicking off an update asynchronously, a thread again, to check on pending actions. So you just piggyback on that. It gives you better scalability.
I got it.
So, I mean, I'm not suggesting you do this like by next week or something like that. So we can think of, we can think of going with the code because you've thoroughly tested this, and then you can follow up with that particular implementation as a bug fix.
Yeah,
that's one option.
Yeah, that's good, because you're
what do you think? Yep,
we are close to the feature freeze, right? Next Friday.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, so this kind of change could be a bit complicated because I need to change, then I need to test, then I need to QA and run the CI again. I don't know if you have enough time to this kind of change, like changing this approach, like you said. It's better, and we can work on this for sure. I don't know if you have enough time to do this like right now.
Yep, makes sense. And what do you think, the rest of you on the call? Do you think that's a fair approach?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, me too. I agree. And you can check the create from Snapshot in other pool implementation where we added the asynchronous creation. So we made a couple of changes in the Vanilla Manager in order to have that working, and we need to also consider that there are already drivers that are implementing in a way, and you're going to introduce another way that you are not returning export location, for example. Things like that. You need to have both implementations working, the old one and the new one, this kind of things.
Yeah, and we already do stuff. Sorry.
Could you comment this on my patch, or just take your
yes,
thoughts?
I still owe comments to Carlos from yesterday. It's definitely, I'll try to run that up and comment on it.
Thank you.
Same with Douglas. If you want to give him pointers, please comment on his patch.
Sure.
Thank you.
There are already a bunch of ugly things that we do. Like, for example, whatever the driver returns, we kind of ask, is this a list? Is this a dictionary? Is this, so it doesn't, I guess if we do treat it as a dictionary and then we see a status in it, so it might be something that's easy to implement. But yeah, it's going to be some sort of hidden behavior unless we document it even in the driver doc strings. I think you all did a good job when you did the create share from Snapshot stuff. So similar. Another question on the same thing is from what I understand, and correct me, this is the part I was trying to read. You're saying that all of the creations are going to have to be synchronized, and in the sense that if you're trying to create a flex group on the same exact flex group pool, which means the same set of aggregates, then you basically put them in a lock, or wait on a lock to be acquired, right? Is that correct? Did I understand that?
Not only flex group it can be FlexVol. If there's a FlexVol deployment in aggregate, the ONTAP will complain. You say, okay, you cannot create a flex group in this aggregate now because there's another volume being provisioned here, right? So yeah, the approach I select was to add a looping call. So I have a looping call that try if you can, if cannot, wait for like 5 seconds, then try again, and try again until it's no more busy. I got this error while running the CI, because the CI runs concurrency too. So there are a lot of things that are testing running in parallel, so they may creating volumes at the same time. So if you're creating volumes at the same time in the same aggregate, they will the other one will cannot. So instead of throwing an error directly, I try some time.
Yeah, I mean, this is also one of the things that I mean, that's probably adding up to the how long the CI is taking to run this job, right? I mean, Tempest tries to do its best, and concurrency of 2 is nowhere compared to what a cloud could see. Let's say a large cloud, you could possibly see 300 to 400 volumes being created at the same time. So it is not, you know, it's not the nicest thing, and I don't know what could prevent that. In the sense, in your case, I guess it's something ONTAP ONTAP has to improve on, right? So but I don't even know. Again, same issue as with the other looping call. I don't even know if the driver has to hang on that thread. So these things are going to be problematic for us if
You prefer
everything gets blocked.
you
Yeah.
you prefer throw an error directly?
Yeah, so we have this scheduler filter called retry, and I really don't know, and I've never seen it work. It's it's something that we could possibly use for this, is what I'm thinking.
What? Sorry,
So
I didn't get it. What?
a retry filter,
Uh,
or do what Cinder does, I suppose. So what happens is, if you basically error out on the driver, and you've gone through the pain of scheduling to a particular driver, and you see that the driver is errored out, you kind of ask the driver, is this a retriable error? And you go back and reschedule on the same pool. So you attempt it a few times before backing out. This is possible, I think, in Cinder, because they're using this framework called TaskFlow, and they kind of track an operation from the scheduler through the stack and stuff. We don't use TaskFlow, so it gets a little more complicated for us. And I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing something where it has to be synchronized, multiple creates and stuff. So I don't have bright ideas, apart from the fact that, yeah, it sucks, like that you have to wait.
Actually, running with one concurrency in my Tempest, it took 4 hours, and I didn't get this error. But when I'm running with 2 in the concurrency of Tempest, it ran in 2 hours and 2 hour and a half. So I had like 1 hour and a half because I concurrency in 2, but I started getting this error. So the solution I did was, okay, retry. But okay, we can work on this. I like this idea of, I didn't know about this option in the scheduler. If it fails,
Yeah, no, I'm not sure if it'll work for this scenario. I don't know what that retry scheduler thing does. We've had it for a while with no testing, so I wouldn't be surprised if it does nothing, like what we wanted to do. Like I would like it if the scheduler says, okay, the driver failed, so I'm going to retry. But if it's just doing, hey, message not consumed, so I'm going to retry, that's a totally different kind of retry. So we should probably take a look. The other alternative that you currently have is lock and wait. So that is an option. Like rather than doing a looping call and retrying, having a lock and wait is is still the same kind of concept. You're going to hold up the thread, but you're at least not introducing any more threads.
Okay.
Have you've seen that at least in the NetApp driver, right? There are some critical sections that are locked with a tools lock or a normal lock, normal Oslo utils file lock.
I haven't seen. I don't remember.
Okay.
This.
If you don't, then yeah, I can point you to it. So
But
the concept there is just, if the lock is busy, it's just going to wait until the lock is this thing, and there's a default lock timeout that gets that kicks in.
like how can I know if the okay? Your idea is to lock, but an aggregate can be used by two backends, and I don't know if there's another other backend. How can I control if the aggregates is being used or not? Your idea is for each aggregate, I have a lock. So I lock, and when I create the volume, I check. I get the lock for each aggregate because the flex group is a set of aggregates, right? And if one of those aggregates are being used, it will have this error. So your idea is lock for each aggregate, and when I start to create a flex group, and I say I see, okay, I will get the locks for all of them. If I can get locks of all of them, I proceed. Otherwise, I wait until the all of them are available for locking. That's the idea, right?
Well, yeah, that's true, but I can see what you mean. Like because you could have multiple backends and the same aggregates reported as multiple backends. That's not going to work because you're probably going to use the qualified backend name or qualified pool names, string them together, sort them or something, and create a lock name. But now you could be going through another backend, but hitting the same pools, and that'll fail.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. Well, here's a third option then. I mean, not third option, really second option. Just use the retry decorator that we have, that you are using somewhere else, but don't introduce a new lock. That is going. I mean, don't introduce new threads. You're going to retry. You're going to hold the thread. It's going to be this thing, and the retry can be based on whatever ONTAP is telling you. If ONTAP is giving you that specific error that says, another volume is being retried or something like that, just like you're doing. So hold on a sec. That's kind of what you're doing. Then what is that looping call for?
Sorry?
Did I get that wrong? So you're not creating new looping calls, right? This is just, you're just retrying?
Yeah, I mean retrying. I don't know if
Okay.
retry creates a new.
In this case, you are retrying, but there is another case you are creating a looping call, right?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, but so yeah, in this part, the retry is performed like okay, and it could be
With the
done
retry
using the
decorator.
other way. Yeah, but there is another one that is using looping calls, and it's got like that issue you mentioned with green threads.
I see.
Here, this is using looping call.
Okay.
This is your
so
case.
yeah, the retry decorator is probably your best bet because you have something that's coming back from ONTAP. And I mean, another way to do that would be just, I mean, maybe when you do this bug fix to remove this looping call, you can accept the request, say that create pending, it's in a create pending state or something like that. And then the next time Manila comes asking, you can check if you can create it. If you can't, still keep it pending, try it a bunch of times, and then just fail the operation if it's not possible.
Yeah. So your point is removing this looping call, right?
Yes.
Because that problem with thread, but keep this retry.
Keep this retry for now, but if even that, you can consider the same approach. You can pretend you're still creating. I know, I mean, the backend's not accepted your request.
Ah,
but
I got it.
you're
got it.
pretending in the driver that it's still creating, and then Manila asks again, you're still creating, but
I
you
got it.
probably count the number of times and you say, okay, I can't start the operation after 10 times also, so I'm going to set this to error.
Yeah, you can have just a
That's-
single and just pass to the next step when
Yeah.
it's starting creating. And yeah, and then we starting creating, wait for the job ID to get succeed. Yeah, I got your
Yeah.
point. That's make we don't need the retry and not even the looping call if you change the car for doing this update, asking for this update for the deploying of FlexGroup of Shutter Sharp. If you're
Absolutely.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then that kind of removes the serialization as well, but it may improve your Tempest too, because we are no longer working on a exponential backoff. We kind of it's a fixed interval looping call when it comes to from the Manila itself. It's going to ask you every 60 seconds, and determinedly so. Like you can't prevent that call, or you can't. We don't like stagger it more than that. So yeah, you can basically maybe see a speed up, because otherwise these retries, they're going to just back off for a while, and you might actually be waiting longer than you really require to.
Yeah.
All right. So those two things. And did you check with the vServer scoped account if everything is working?
Yeah, the service scoped account, you mean using the SVM scoped, right? We are doing a QA.
Yes.
Nain, I don't know if Nain is here. Nain, are you here, Nain? Yeah,
Yes.
Nain is here. Nain is doing a QA, a manual QA for us. They're like doing things that our side doesn't do, some tests manually. And I think he's testing, I don't know if he already tested or he will test. I don't know, he could answer for us, but he's working on this for us, like doing some things like that testing SVM scope and other things that are corner case that are not the normal CI does.
Yeah. No, that's good. And that's good. It'll be good to know, because while it's a corner case, it's also, I mean, some of the largest users I've seen are ending up using vServer scoped accounts. So definitely test that. You don't want to break people on upgrade, especially if they're not signing up for this feature, but something breaks because, there are some code changes now.
Yeah. Actually, we don't have yet a job for this. We had one, and we are trying to recover it, and we are adding this to periodic. We are in downstream periodic. We are testing this, but it's now more testing, and we need to get this back. So the SVM scope, because as you said, there's some customers using this kind of configuration, and it's very common we get some bugs, in this kind of thing. So when we release this kind of configuration, get some bugs in. So yeah, we need to make sure that we are not adding a bug for this. Nain will help me on this. Thank you, Nain.
Awesome, thanks. Also, did you test over provisioning with this, the over subscription ratio and stuff like that? I mean, I see the fancy calculation, and I was like, I was chuckling because I think it's something that ONTAP is supposed to tell you as to what the available space. Sorry.
My internet.
Oh, okay.
My internet connection is unstable.
Okay, no, let me repeat. So I saw the scheduler calculations that you're making for the available space. And I think it's kind of funny because I would expect ONTAP to tell you what the available space is, rather than have you figure it out based on the aggregate space and find the lowest space and then multiply it and all of that stuff. But I mean, the question though was, have you tested with the oversubscription calculations that we have in the scheduler? And is your recommendation for what the oversubscription ratio should be going to change when FlexGroups are enabled.
What kind of test you mean? Like, because from my understanding of oversubscription, it will, like if I'm saying the available space is 1 tera, it will just calculate the oversubscription based on this size, right?
Yeah, so no, there is a fancy formula that we use in the scheduler. So you can take a look. It's in the capacity filter and the capacity weigher. So we do we figure out if I mean, and this backend always supports thin provisioning, right? NetApp always supports thin provisioning. So we figure out if the backend supports thin provisioning and the kind of share that you're creating also requires thin provisioning. Then we inflate the amount of available space by X amount, and that X amount is not really just a multiplication. There's actually some more stuff like provisioned capacity, as in how much has actually been provisioned versus how much has been allocated, and how much has been consumed. So it's fancy, and I wouldn't blame you if you've not already looked at it. But
Okay.
I think, yep.
You can continue.
No, I think it is something that you ought to revisit for sure, if at all this is going on. I mean, I see that you're doing all these scheduler calculations of the capacity. I'm sure you'll have to figure out something like this to advise to your customers what the oversubscription ratio should be when you're doing FlexGroups.
Okay. I haven't tested this manually. We can add this to our tests that
to your investigation, right? And
yeah.
It's a recommendation that you would write up anyway. It's not something that you would I mean, it's something that you'd probably write into your docs and have your users use, because that's going to be a common question saying, what should my oversubscription ratio be, or how do I come up with that number? And vaguely, I think in Manila and in Cinder, we've said it should be 20. And I think somebody just pulled that out of their ear kind of thing. It's not really a magic number. But if that is something that you guys are testing and establishing that, okay, with this much amount of free space, this is the kind of oversubscription ratios that you should be looking at, and this is how you monitor it, it would make sense. And we had that kind of thing for FlexWalls, because we know how much FlexWall space was actually being consumed for like metadata and snapshots. I think it was 5% by default. So I don't know what it is for FlexGroups and so on. Like, there might be newer recommendations that you'll need to make. Just something for you to consider. Nothing that you have to make.
Thank you. We'll look at this and we can add this in the documentation. Maybe it's different, as you said, FlexGroup is a different size, so we can have a different recommendation for those parameters.
Yep. And another thing that I noticed, sorry, I'm going on. I just started noting these down in my notebook as you were talking. Is the use of XDP versus DP. So as far as I remember, and this was something a while ago, shouldn't everything be XDP by default from 9.3? And if it's not, the kind of SnapMirror relationships that we are creating inside the NetApp driver are all using DP as something that we've hard coded, but it's not going to work on some ONTAP platforms, right? XDP is like the new thing or something, even for FlexWalls.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
The XDP is the default. So like when you're creating a volume and you're creating your SnapMirror relationship, and you say this relationship is DP, when you create this, the API accepts this, but when you go there and show, it's a XDP. If you show the relationship, it's a XDP, but you request a DP. So in fact, even using DP, it will go to the XDP. But when you use XDP and DP, if you call DP and XDP, the SnapMirror policy will be different. So you have a different snap mirror policy for each one. So if you use DP and XDP, we have different policy. In our case, in the Manila case, where the replication, we want to copy the snapshots for all replicas. So if I take a snapshot of a share, I want that all replica must have the same snapshot. This policy comes with DP by default, but for XDP, it doesn't. So I struggle a bit with this. So when I create XDP for FlexGroup, I must go there and force the policy to be the snapshot copy. That's the name of this. So yeah. So but we can request DP for vol. It will be XDP, but with the corrected policy. When it's go to the FlexGroup, it must be XDP. It will be XDP because that's the way. But the policy is not the correct one for the Manila, for the way that the replication works with Manila. So yeah.
Right.
So
okay. So it's something that you got to fix for FlexVols potentially, but not. I mean, for FlexGroups, you've got this right. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your idea is to force all to be XDP, right?
Yeah, no, I actually didn't know what to do, because somebody told me this at some conference when I was this thing that they had this thing coming up that all snap mirrors are going to be XDP by default, and we're talking some 3 years ago, right? And they said DP snap mirrors are not going to work, and it just hit me that we were hard coding that in the code, but I mean, as far as I know, it's not been removed, and like you're saying, ONTAP's doing some sort of crazy translation so as to keep the backwards compatibility, but at some point that might break in case they're going to try to remove it or something. So it is something that you got to probably fix for the replication of normal shares, but I am glad to see at least that you're leading with it for FlexGroups.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Awesome. And final question, I promise, and this is the FlexGroup only flag that you have. Why is it defaulting to true? And the reason I asked that is because the enable FlexGroup is false. And if somebody says, okay, I'm ready to use FlexGroups, wouldn't they want to make the choice of, okay, I have existing shares, I'd like to keep them working, and in addition, I want to use FlexGroups, rather than the other choice of, okay, I enabled FlexGroups, I only want FlexGroups from now on.
That's an important discussion. I got your point. We had this discussion in our internal. So why we choose true, but we can change it if we prefer, if we decide together that it must be false. But the reason is that the idea is that when you have a backend and you're running with FlexVol, and you want to start to work with FlexGroup, in our mind, the administrator will create a new backend stanza for this, only for working FlexGroup. In our mind, the normal scenario will be a stanza with FlexVol and a stanza with FlexGroup. We have the option to work with FlexVol and FlexGroup, but it's not the most common case. In our sense, that we can be wrong, right? In our sense, we think that the common will be a new stanza. And if you leave this as false, it means that when the user creates this new stanza, it must go there and change this NetApp FlexGroup only to true, right? Because if it doesn't, this new stanza will report duplicate pools, right? So if you have a pool that's FlexVol and you have a grid 1 and 2, and then you say, okay, we need to create a new stanza, and this is a FlexGroup stanza, and I don't use this as true, as false, it means that they point to the same cluster, so they will have access to the same aggregates, aggregate 1 and 2. And the user will report for the 2 stanza, will report pool aggregate 1, aggregate 2, and the second stanza will report pool aggregate 1, aggregate 2, and the FlexGroup pool. So the aggregate 1 and aggregate 2 are repeated pool. Did you get it? So if you do this way, the common way that the user will deploy will be a different stanza, it's better to have is as true.
Yeah.
By default. Otherwise, the user will need to every time go there and change this to false.
Right.
To avoid duplicate pools, right? But on the other hand, if you have, like you said, in the same stanza, if the common it will be in the same stanza, so it's better to have this as false as default, because we avoid to stopping reporting a pool that has some shared. But it's a kind of trade-off, right? So there are some advantages and some disadvantages.
So I can tell you stuff that'll influence you one way or the other. So I mean, when you're introducing new configuration, you always try to make sure that the existing stuff does not break. For you, and you err on that side, so that you know, you don't break somebody that is that's got any existing you know, deployments. And that is more important for sure than somebody that is new. And there's a reason why, because somebody that's trying something out new, like making a fresh greenfield deployment, isn't going to start offering the service to their users before testing stuff. So we've seen this a lot in the field, that, you know, that's when they kind of explore the configuration, like, you know, make all sorts of experiments and prove to themselves that everything is solid before the service itself is offered to somebody else, or even they start consuming it for production use cases. So on the other hand, somebody that's upgrading, that's not a choice. They make that upgrade call and they go through this configuration stuff. And if they make a mistake during that stuff, it's harder to fix, right? So yeah, it's a trade-off, but it usually leans the other way. And the other way being, you know, protect the people that you already have this deployment sorts. But there is a third option here for your this thing. So we do this ugliness in some places. So when we want to make the choice, we kind of set this to auto. And you must have seen this in Manila in some places, in Cinder for sure, in NAS secure operations, for example. I kind of remind people of that ugliness all the time. So we set it to auto, and what that means is, hey, driver, figure it out. So if the driver says, okay, is this an existing deployment or a new deployment? And how do you know? Maybe look for your shares that have been there. And if you know that this is an existing deployment, then you set that to false, even if the enable flex group is true. You know, no, sorry, if the enable flex group is true, you set flex group pool only to false, unless the administrator has overridden it to false. And
That's
if
fair.
yeah, it's kind of better, but it requires you to expand on that help text and say, if you set it to auto, this is the behavior that's going to happen. The driver is going to figure it out.
That's good.
And
I like this.
yeah, if it figures out, you have solved the case of upgrade as well as new deployments.
Good. Yeah.
Awesome. As I said, that's the last thing I had. Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
You can add this as a comment in my patch, so
yes,
I can work on this as a fix, and then
absolutely.
those points as well.
I keep promising the review. I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you. But that's good. Yep. That's a good. So
right. I'm done. Is anybody else that wants to take a stab at this?
They are tired, I guess.
Yeah, it's you guys are way ahead in your time zones. My day is just starting, so sorry about sorry about dragging this for a longer time with my questions.
No worries. That was great. Had good discussion. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, you've done great. Thanks, Philip. And this is a huge amount of code change, and I'm sure this is going to be a big thing for you know, NetApp to ship in this cycle, and for Manila as well, because I like the direction in which this is going with scale out file systems and stuff. So this is really cool.
Good. So yeah, That's all, guys. Anyone have any question, or I don't think so, right?
Thanks, Felipe.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will stop sharing my screen, stop sharing, stop the recording, and Carlos will help me. Will help me to upload this on YouTube. And
Sure
yeah,
thing.